is Zahiroh from class 19.2E.01. Today, I would like to present my journal review entitled Performance Evaluation of Docker's Container. This journal was published in April 2020 in volume 174. The journal discusses cloud computing and virtualization technology. Now I will explain the objective of this study. The study aims to compare the performance of Docker containers and virtual machines in terms of CPU, memory, disk I/O, and overall system efficiency. The researchers want to find out which virtualization technology provides better performance and research usage. In addition, this study also helps readers understand the differences between Docker container and virtual machine in handling system operation and workloads. Next, let's move to the methodology. The researchers use an experimental benchmarking method to compare Docker containers and virtual machines. Several benchmarks tools were used in this research, such as Sistem, Poronix, Apache Benchmark, and ISO. These tools were used to test CPU performance, memory usage, disk I/O, and system efficiency. The methodology is quite clear, although some testing configuration could still be explained in more detail. Now I will explain the result of the study. The research showed that Docker performs better than virtual machine in CPU, memory, disk I/O, load testing, and operation speed. The researchers found that Docker is lighter and faster in system performance. The results are also presented through tables and graphs, making them easier to understand. Next, let's move to the conclusion. Based on the result of the study, Docker containers are more efficient and provide better performance than virtual machines in research usage and processing speed. Docker is considered lighter and faster because it can optimize system performance more effectively. Therefore, Docker can be a good choice for virtualization technology and cloud computing environment. Now I will explain the strengths of this journal. One of the strengths of this journal is the use of several benchmarks tools to compare Docker containers and virtual machines. This makes the research result more detailed and reliable. In addition, the journal presents the result using tables and graphs so readers can understand the performance comparison more easily. The discussion is also systematic and relevant to current cloud computing and virtualization technology. Next, I will explain the weaknesses of this journal. The journal only uses one server specification, so the result may be different if tested on other hardware or system. In addition, the journal does not discuss security aspects in detail, even though security is important in virtualization technology. Some technical explanations are also quite difficult for beginners to understand. Now let's move to the clarity of the journal. Overall, this journal is quite clear and detailed because the explanations are supported by tables, graphs, and benchmark results. The discussion is also organized systematically, making the comparison between Docker and virtual machine easier to understand. However, some technical explanations and terms may still be difficult for beginners or readers who are not familiar with virtualization technology. Finally, I would like to give my recommendation for this journal. My recommendation is accept with minor revision because the journal has good research quality. Next, I will continue with the second journal review. entitled Usability Analysis of E-commerce Mobile Application. This journal was published in 2024 and focused on usability analysis in e-commerce mobile application. The journal discusses efficiency, effectiveness, and user satisfaction in mobile application usage. Now, I will explain the objective of this study. The purpose of this study is to analyze the usability of e-commerce mobile application. The study focuses on efficiency, effectiveness, and user satisfaction. The researchers want to identify which application provides better usability performance for users. Let's move to the methodology. The researchers use a combination of survey and direct observation methods in this study. Usability testing and questionnaires were conducted to collect data from users. The respondents were asked to complete several tasks while using the application. In addition, task completion procedures were clearly explained to measure the usability performance of the application. The collect data were then analyzed to compare the usability level of each application. Now I will explain the result of this study. The results showed that Jumia had better usability performance compared with Konga and AliExpress. Jumia showed better results in efficiency, effectiveness, and user satisfaction. These results were also present using table and percentage, making the data easier to understand for readers. Next, let's move to the conclusion. Based on the study, Jumia was considered the best application among the test e-commerce mobile application. This application showed better efficiency, effectiveness, and user satisfaction compared to the other application. Therefore, the study proved that usability is very important in improving user experience. Now, I will explain the strengths of this journal. One of the strengths of this journal is the systematic research method used by the researchers. The journal also presents clear and understandable data through table and percentage. This makes the comparison between the application easier to understand. Next, I will explain the weaknesses of this journal. The number of respondents in this study was still limited, so the result might not fully represent all users. Besides that, the research was conducted in only one location. The journal also only focused on a few e-commerce applications. Now, let's move to the clarity of this journal. Overall, the journal is easy to understand because the explanations are clear and systematic. The table and percentages also help readers understand the comparison result more easily. In addition, the discussion is organized well, so readers can follow the research process clearly. Finally, I would like to give my recommendation for this journal. My recommendation is accept with minor revision because the journal has a good research structure and clear data presentation. However, the researchers should expand the research scope and increase the number of respondents in future study.